G'day guys, welcome back to this next video on Focchi Facades. In this video we're going to be looking at the project environment and in particular our auxiliary toolbar, so our top toolbar and the different options we have when configuring it. Starting from the top left we have our Focchi Facades file button. Going here we can create a new project, for instance. We can import a project from a file as well. We can save this project and we can save as well, and we can amend the job description as well. Corresponding to this job. We can also generate reports as well, so reports on the project, and look at our recent files and open those accordingly. We can also exit as well. To the right of that we have a save button, a save shortcut button, and then moving on, the undo and redo buttons, and also another shortcut for the reports in which we're allowed to generate those, and also create optional print views, setups, and be able to generate HTML, PDF, and other files in which we might need. Panning over the screen now, starting from the left, we have our option to view the previous window in which we were at. So as you can see, I was on this previous window. And also, moving on, we have the option to create a full window zoom. So if I click that, I'm able to view that window as well. I've introduced a element here, so my full window was including all of that. But now, once I've deleted that element and I go back into the full view, I have the full view of the building. Again, we can also zoom out twice as much using 2 times. And redraw particular sections in which we've drawn, so such as text boxes or these sort of shapes. We can redraw those, and also we can highlight zoom as well. So clicking on highlight zoom, we can drag using the left cursor a particular section of the building, and then clicking the left click again, once we've selected that view, we'll zoom into that for us as well. Moving on, window panning as well. We're able to pan around with one particular dimension, one particular axis, sorry. And here as well, we have our 3D option, 3D orbit option. So we're able to orbit around the building in 3D using clicking and holding the left mouse button. Another thing, I'm going to uncheck that. And as you can see, I'm unable to do that. A shortcut for the orbit is actually to hold down the control button while panning around. So as you can see, I'm holding down the control button and the orbit function is working. Moving on, we have another shortcut to print. So using the different image current views, or we can save it to certain image formats as well. We're able to do that. Moving on to the right, we have our introduction of DXF and DWG files as well. So our drawing files, we're able to amend those, and then we're also able to choose different drawings for different templates as well here. Moving on, we have our template object snaps. So our template object snaps is looking at the relationship and the interaction between the mouse cursor and the template. So looking at where we want our mouse, in what situations we want our mouse cursor to interact with the building and this sort of thing. These tools here, so our template tools, are not actually applicable at the moment because I haven't actually imported a template here. So I already have my model. If you looked at it, if you had done the previous IFC Builder course, you'd know that we started with drawing templates, 2D drawing templates, in which I imported with the templates manager, and then I was able to amend those templates as well. In this particular program, when we're importing a particular architectural model, that architectural model is not a template. It's an actual model in which we can interact with within the project, or within the program, sorry. Hope that made sense. Moving on, we have our object references as well. I'm able to toggle on or off the object references, and also choose particular object snaps and tracking preferences in order to interact with the model. So looking at the relationship and the positioning of the cursor to different architectural elements, and also the tracking section of those. So being able to track extensions, perpendicular sections, and orthogonal views as well. We're going to play around with this a bit later as well, so that'll make sense if it doesn't. Again, we're able to, we're able to input the grid. So our grid that's actually layered on the ground floor section, so at a height of 0. And also with that, we're able to select our snap to grid function. So what that basically means is that when I'm introducing a template, the program will recognize the grid and also take into consideration the corners of the grid and the actual lines of the grid when we input a certain element. So we don't actually want that for this case, strictly because we're using the building as the grid fundamentally. So we don't actually need a greater level of connection to the grid, because that'll actually stuff us up. That'll actually not stuff us up, but it'll actually create discrepancies in the input of the walls. I hope that makes sense. As you can see, the grid doesn't take into consideration the model, and different corners and stuff and attributes are not taken into consideration. So I'm going to toggle those on or off now. Again, we can introduce coordinate introduction as well. So for instance, looking at the different coordinates of lengths and inputs of origins and things of that nature, we're able to amend. We can also allow for dimensions to be defined upon introducing each element. So looking at just labeling the elements and the dimensions in which they exist in. Moving on, we have our orthogonality tool, which will allow us only to input different elements in a row at 90 degrees of each other. So you've only got 2 degrees of freedom in that sense. You can only go up and you can only go down. There are no angled inputs and stuff like that. And that actually comes into it's quite handy when we're looking at inputting a facade from here, which we'll be doing in later videos. And with the orthogonality tool, I can literally click and keep on clicking to the right to add our facade panels without the chance of them being misaligned. Moving on, we have our polar tracking as well. We can turn on and off our polar tracking, and also specify the angle in which our polar tracking exists in. And also to the right, we can also repeat that last selection, and also choose our configuration. So our configuration for the system tools, mouse cursors. So using use of standard cursors, or if we like to change specific preferences, snap cursors as well. So looking at the sizes and trackline colors, control points as well. Being able to draw the grid and also the intensity of the grid, we can do that as well, and also the dimensions. So when we're introducing those dimensions, what lengths do we want, and what color lengths, and also what color distances to externalities, and the ability to draw those as well. Then we have an option to configure different specifications. So we can also configure our units. So we can change the different lengths, the widths, and the degrees of freedom with our decimal digits as well. We can save those those preferences as default settings, but also we can input. If you can see this blue arrow, usually this blue arrow means that there is a library within it that will allow us to import a particular preferences. So for instance, we have the international system for units, and also we have the IP system. I particularly use the international system, so I'm going to select those, and as you can see, the import's finished. Another thing as well that's quite handy to know is that if you, for instance, work with a mixture of the IP system and the international system, the metric system, You can amend those here using the different toggle drop-down boxes. And also, which is a great feature of this program, and we can actually do this a bit later with most of our elements, we can export those preferences. So I can export this preference for the units I like to use when working. I can export those into my into a work directory. And also, this comes in handy is when I go into another project and I want to use those specific units that are used in this program, I can import those. So I can import those that specifications and those preferences for units, and that'll make my obviously reduce time and also ensure comfort when dealing with units. Moving on, we also have an option to print again. So the repeated prints section. We have our document text styles as well. So looking at the different texts and how to and change those, the headers to our reports and these sort of text features. The different drawings we're able to amend. So looking at the formats, the different sizes we're able to do, and also the configuration of our peripherals as well, which is a great way. We can also automatically configure those as well. And then again, those drawing tools are repeated within this drop pop-up box. Looking at details as well, so details of our project, I can view those as well. And this looks at the different details and the location of those details. As you can see, we haven't inputted anything, so it's quite blank here. And then we're able to send this job. So sending the job to our recipients from our different contacts as well. We can also change the background color. So looking at the different background colors and the ability to change that to our liking. Our 3D performance as well. So looking at the different workspace preferences we have and our display area preferences. You can play around with these, but I like to keep them as default. Looking at improved environmental lighting quality and things of that nature. Again, undo and redo buttons and also automatic saving options as well. We can preference those. Then lastly, we have our help option. Same options we had in our load up page. So program documentation, program licensing contract, and responsibility clauses that we're able to view. And that's basically the auxiliary toolbar. So what I wanted to add on, when you're more and more experienced with the software, these tools actually are quite repeated, of course, and you'll become more familiar with them as time goes on and with more experience. And that's it. See you guys in the next video where we look at the project tab and the different elements as well. All right, see you guys.